Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you all for joining for His Holiness Chandramauli Swami Maharaj's daily call. Today we are going to continue the Srimad Bhagavatam series, which is the first canto, 9th chapter. Verse number is 26 today. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for joining today for this class and enlightening us on this topic. You can please take over. I'll share the screen, Guru Maharaj.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Purushasva Bhava. Purushasva Bhava. Purushasva Bhava. Vihitam Yatavanam Yatasramam. Vairafya Ragopad Divyam. Annato Bhayam Laksanam. At Maharaj Yudhishthira's inquiry, Bhishmadev first defined all the classifications of castes and orders of life in terms of the individual's qualifications. Then he systematically, in twofold divisions, described counteraction by detachment and interaction by attachment. Therefore, the conception of four castes and four orders of life, as explained by the Lord himself, is to accelerate transcendental qualities of the individual person so that he may gradually realize his spiritual identity and thus act according to get free from material bondage or condition in life. So take into account that statement. The whole Varnashram system is meant to realize one's spiritual identity and free one from material bondage. And of course, to engage people according to their swadharma and material nature. In almost all of the Puranas, the subject matter is described in the same spirit. And so also in the Mahabharata, it is more elaborately described by Bhishmadev in the Shanti Parva, beginning from the 60th chapter. And the Varnashram Dharma is prescribed for civilized human beings just to train him to successfully terminate human life. Self-realization is distinguished from the life of lower animals engaged in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. Bhishmadev advised for all human beings 9 qualifications. So here we'll see, as a Mahajan, he teaches these 9 qualifications as his principal teachings, giving religious principles. And so here it goes. 1, not to become angry. 2, not to lie. 3, to equally distribute wealth. 4, to forgive. To beget children only by one's legitimate right. To be pure in mind and hygienic in body. Not to be inimical towards anyone. To be simple. And to support servants or subordinates. One cannot be called a civilized person without acquiring the above-mentioned preliminary qualities. Besides these, the Brahmanas, the intelligent men, the administrators, men, the mercantile community, and the laborer class must acquire special qualities in terms of occupational duties mentioned in the Vedic scriptures. Yeah. So if one is going to be designated according to these 4, one has to develop the qualities in conjunction to that. Okay? For the intelligent men, controlling the senses is the most essential qualification. It is the basis of morality. Sex indulgence, even with a legitimate wife, must also be controlled, and thereby family control will automatically follow. So just to comment on that, they want to restrict the birth of children and try to control family population by artificial means. They don't control the propensity to engage in sex. They just give some contraceptive programs or options for abortion or some family planning program that doesn't deal with the real problem. It simply exasperates it. So when one is legitimately connected to his wife, there will automatically family control. An intelligent man abuses his great qualification if he does not follow the Vedic way of life. This means he must seriously make a study of the Vedic literatures, especially Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita. For learning the Vedic knowledge, one must approach a person who is 100% engaged in devotional service. He must not do things which are forbidden in the Shastras. A person cannot be a teacher if he drinks or smokes. In the modern system of education, the teacher academic qualification is taken into consideration without evaluation of his moral life. Therefore, the result of education is misuse of high intelligence in so many ways. The Kshatriya, the members of the administration class, is especially advised to give charity and not to accept charity in any circumstance. Modern administrators raise subscriptions for some political functions, but never give charity to the citizens in any state function. It is just the reverse of the injunctions of the Shastras. The administrative class must be well versed in the Shastras and must not take to the profession of teachers. The administrators should never pretend to become nonviolent and therefore go to hell. When Arjuna wanted to become nonviolent, coward on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was severely chastised by Lord Krishna. The Lord degraded Arjuna at that time to the status of an uncivilized man for his avowed acceptance of the cult of nonviolence. The administrative class must be personally trained in military education. Cowards should not be elevated to the presidential throne by dint of numerical votes only. The monarchs were all sure as personalities, therefore monarchy should be maintained, provided the monarch is regularly trained in the occupational duties of a king. In fighting, the king or the president should never return home without being hurt by the enemy. The so-called king of today never visits the war field. He is very much expert in artificially encouraging the fighting strength in the hope of false national prestige. As soon as the administrative class is turned into a gang of mercantile and labor men, the whole machinery of government becomes polluted. The Vaishyas, the members of the mercantile community, are especially advised to protect cows. Cow protection means increasing the milk production, namely curd and butter. Agriculture, distribution of the foodstuffs are the primary duties of the mercantile community, backed by education and Vedic knowledge and trained to give in charity. As the Kshatriyas were given charge of protection of the citizens, Vaishyas were given charge for the protection of the animals. Animals are never meant to be killed. Killing of animals is a symptom of barbarian society. For a human being, agricultural produce, fruit, milk are sufficient and compatible foodstuffs. The human society should give more attention to animal protection. The productive energy of the laborer is misused when he is occupied by industrial enterprises. Industry of various types cannot produce the essential needs of man, namely rice, wheat, grain, milk, fruit, and vegetables. Production of machines and machines' tool increase the artificial living fashion of a class vested interest and keep thousands of men in starvation and unrest. This should not be the standard of civilization. And now we go to the Sudras. The Sudra class is less intelligent and should have no independence. They're meant for rendering sincere service to the three higher sections of the society. The Sudra class can attain all comforts of life simply by rendering service to the higher classes. It's especially enjoined that a Sudra should never bank money. As soon as Sudras accumulate wealth, they will be used for simple activities in wine, women, and gambling. Wine, women, and gambling indicate that the population is degraded to less than Sudra quality. A higher class should always look after the maintenance of the Sudras, and they should provide them with old and used garments. A Sudra should not leave his master when the master is old and invalid, and the master should keep the servants satisfied in all respects. The Sudras must first of all be satisfied by sumptuous food and clothing before any sacrifice is performed. In this age, so many functions are held by spending millions, but the poor laborer is not sumptuously fed or given charity, clothing, etc. The laborers are thus dissatisfied, and so they make agitation. The varnas are, so to speak, classification of different occupations. And ashram dharma is gradual progress on the path of self-realization. Both are interrelated, and one is dependent on the other. The main purpose of ashram dharma is to awaken knowledge and detachment. The brahmachari ashram is a training ground for the prospective candidates. In this ashram, it is instructed that this material world is not actually the home of the living being. The conditioned souls under material bondage are prisoners of matter, and therefore self-realization is the ultimate aim of life. The whole system of varnashram dharma is a means to detachment. I'll read that again. Let's see. The whole system of ashram dharma is a means to detachment. One who fails to assimilate the spirit of detachment is allowed to enter into family life with the same spirit of detachment. Therefore, one who attains detachment at once must adopt the fourth order, namely renounce, and thus live on charity only, not to accumulate wealth, but just to keep the body and soul together for ultimate realization. The household life is for one who is attached, and the vanaprastha and sannyas orders of life are for those who are detached from material life. The brahmachari ashram is meant for training both the attached and the detached. Om Gyanti Mirandasya Jana Jana Savapani. Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruveni Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasnaya Bhutale. Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinam Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudamani Pachayane. Nirvisesa Sunyavari Tastyat Yarim Sakarne. Panchakalpa Dhurivascha Kripasindu Eva Chapapitanam Pavabhyo Vaishnave Namaste Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. So Krishna very clearly says in the Bhagavad Gita in the 15th chapter, Sarvasya Hamridhi Sani Visto Matat Smriti Jnanam Pohanam Cha Vedaischa Sarvam Aham Eva Vedya Vedanta Krid Veda Vid Eva Chaham. So these last two lines really indicate the purpose of the Vedic knowledge, Vedic scriptures. And that is the process to detach oneself from the material world, attach oneself to Krishna, engage in service of Krishna, perfect that service, and go back home, back to Godhead. So the whole Vedic scheme centers around that last statement, that the Vedas are meant to know Krishna, and ultimately knowledge of Krishna culminates in devotional service to Krishna. So the point is that anything that is done according to the Vedas is done in a systematic, organized way to bring about a sense of detachment, no matter what one's ashraming, or even one's varna. It means to engage in a detached way in order to facilitate the material and at the same time gradually detach one from the material and coming to the stage of bhakti. So when ashram dharma, as Prabhupada says here, is prescribed for civilized beings to train him to successfully terminate human life. So human life is one of the many lives within the material energy. It's the most developed, the most, and it facilitates the opportunity to go to higher stages of life, such as the life of a pure spiritual being, and ultimately to return home back to Godhead. And a very systematic science of evaluation, according to two principles: tendency towards certain occupations and tendency towards the practice of spiritual life. So you have Varnashram Dharma, which is Varna and Ashram, and there's 8 components: Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanapras, Sannyas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra are the Swadharma, or the inclinations of the population towards activity, based on a certain mentality that comes by way of cumulative karma from previous lives. And therefore, in order for one to gradually come to the point of detachment from material, one should follow the Vedic scheme and engage in ashram, either brahmachari, or in the female sense, brahmacharini, married life, retired life, and renounced life. But all of it is meant for renouncing, because the goal ultimately is Taksva Deham Purna Janmani 19 Sojina. So we have to live in this material world, but there's a way of living in this material world that elevates one's consciousness to a higher level of existence. In other words, one becomes Krishna conscious. So the whole Vedic scheme is simply centered around bringing about that consciousness. And here Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnya Mahashrista Guna Karma Vibhaga Saha, that these 4 orders and 4 ashrams were created by me. I am the creator of the system. And ultimately, I am above the system at the same time. Krishna qualifies his position in relationship to what Krishna creates. He's not controlled by the creation, nor is he part of the creation. But he is transcendental to the creation. And he gives the formula by which one can live in this material world happily, and at the same time make progress to the goal of life. And that is the Varnashram system. So His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, speaks a lot about this, particularly in the first canto, tremendous amount in the first canto, also to some degree in sporadic, and a lot in the third canto also. And through all of his lectures, he always refers back to Varnashram. a lot. I mean, a lot means more than 50% of his lectures were centered around some of the principles that make up the system of Varna and Ashram. And then Srila Prabhupada gave the formula. What he wanted and what he tried to put in practice was he wanted to train a class of individuals to become Brahminical, developing Brahminical qualities. And he directly gave us the platform of Brahminical activities through the process of Vaishnava culture. In other words, anyone who came into our society, no matter what they were trained to become Brahmanas. But that was a startup program. Later on, Prabhupada said that it's not so easy to become Krishna conscious, therefore we have to develop a system for training according to the different characteristics that people symptomize in their activity. In other words, if you see someone who is exhibiting qualities of a Kshatriya, then you may engage him in that way. A Vaishya also. Sudras don't need training, they simply need to be working under the guise of one of the three categories, either Vaishya, Brahmin, or Kshatriya. And here we see how they are nicely taken care of. Outside of this Varnashram system, there's no other qualification. But the only problem is that in this age, no one really knows what is their swadharma, or their material tendencies. Sometimes it's exhibited by how they do or what they like, but it's never completely understood in that way. So Prabhupada wanted to set up what is called the Varnashram College, where after creating, training, then engaging people who are Brahminically inclined to be teachers of the other two Varnas, Brahma, Kshatriya, and Vaishya, and then gradually put that system in place. And Prabhupada said the system has to be done through the society of simple living and cow protection, because the Vaishyas play a big role. All three, of course, Brahman, Kshatriya, and Vaishyas all play an important role. But the Vaishyas play a role in providing all of the material needs that are there, and they're also meant to protect animals. Animals are also a very important part of the livelihood of the human being. And therefore, they're meant to be engaged according to the type of animal they're needed. So we know the cow provides milk, it provides fuel, it provides the basis of agriculture, it provides a whole system of worship centered around the deity. The Kshatriyas are meant to administrate and also protect if needed, and also collect taxes in order to develop programs that will benefit the rest of the society. They're not meant to collect donations or taxes simply for their own payment. And and so the Brahmins, of course, they are the spiritual guides in society. They also advise how to organize and also how to administrate the political affairs of the society. So everyone has a role in this Varnashram system. Unfortunately, Srila Prabhupada's program never really was able to develop beyond a certain point. And therefore, Prabhupada saw that at the end of his life, and he said, develop this Varnashram system. He said, then our society would be fixed internally and externally. And so this is a very important part of Prabhupada's mission that needs to be given focus and developed, and that is the Varnashram system. It centers around, beginnings around cow protection, because cow protection it's connected to the Brahminical culture, and it's also connected, of course, to the Vaishya culture directly, but also in the Kshatriya culture also, because it provides a material livelihood for people. When they use animals, then they can also make revenue based on that. And then that can support the needs of the state. Unfortunately, they just kill animals. I was just talking to one person I was with today, just to find out how many cows are killed a day. And in America alone, 95,000 cows are sent to a slaughterhouse, just in America, to speak about the rest of the world. So this is horrendous amount of sinful activity. It's heavy sinful activity. It's not just sinful activity. It has very dire consequences, not only on the individuals who are directly connected with it, but on everyone, and the whole society will suffer if cow killing continues to go on, and it's already showing its face in so many difficulties that society is having. War, pestilence, all of these are results of sinful activities based on killing animals, especially the cows. And there are other sinful activities that are also contributing to the downfall of the entire Western civilization. As Prabhupada said, Western civilization will be finished in 50 years, and that date is 2023. You're seeing a crumbling of the society now. But here, for the devotees, this is where we need to focus on developing this Varnashram system. It establishes the social and moral standards by which one can practice their material life, but it also situates one in ashram. And Prabhupada says the brahmacharis are meant to teach attachment and detachment in that ashram, and then one can either stay in the brahmachari ashram, or they can move on and become a qualified grihasta. And Prabhupada said detachment is also there in grihasta life. Not that one has a nice wife or a nice husband, and therefore sense gratification is available at any time, at any situation. This is not the purpose of grihasta life. Grihasta life is also detachment from material sense gratification and attachment to Krishna, based on the religious principles. And foremost on that religious principle is to worship the deity of the Lord. So Prabhupada said the grihastas must worship the deity every day, because if they do not, then they're falling down in devotional service, is guaranteed. So Prabhupada made the point to emphasize the importance of child protection and Varnashram system. Okay, so these are some things you can think about. This is a very broad subject, and as you see, Prabhupada took a lot of time to explain it. This purport, you should read it over and over again. Try to study it. There's so many points in the purport that is very relevant to our day-to-day practice in Krishna consciousness, and also on the broader level for the entire society to adopt and to implement in our society. And if we can put the Varnashram system in a working order within our society, then Krishna consciousness will spread extremely fast. Extremely fast. Okay, so yeah.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful class about Varnashrama and how Srila Prabhupada emphasizes always about this concept. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Dear devotees, if you have any questions or comments or realizations, you can please go ahead and please turn on your cameras if possible. Thank you so much. Good Maharaj, while devotees are thinking about the question, so I have a question. So what should we aspire, Good Maharaj? Like, do we have to aspire for the Brahmanical qualities to develop in us? Or like or developing our own dharma, like whatever qualities we have, like suppose as a Kshatriya or as a Vaishya or as a Brahmana. So do we have to concentrate on that part?
Well, there's an evaluation system, and that comes from the spiritual masters. He's meant to evaluate his disciples and see what is their nature and try to engage them in that. But in general, we should cultivate the qualities that are mentioned because in one sense, we are above Varnashram, we are Daivi Varnashram, that means spiritual Varnashram. So we're trying to develop the qualities of a Vaishnava, which are the mode of goodness. We're not trying to develop the qualities of any of the different ones. Mostly it's the Brahminical qualities that are being emphasized. And after some time, one will start to understand what is their service. The service is the expression of one's qualities in action, but there are general qualities for everyone, such as humility, tolerance, pridelessness, detachment from gain and safety. In other words, being situated in equanimity, not being moved by happiness and distress. These are all essential qualities. Peacefulness. And for the grihastas, charity is high on the list. The grihastas must regularly give in charity and also worship the deity. So if you go to the purport in Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 5th chapter, verses 23 and 24, I think it's two verses together. There, Prabhupada mentions the 9 processes of devotional service. But he also mentions, along with that deity worship, the grihastas must worship the deity.
Can you give the verse number again, Guru Maharaj? Which chapter number?
7.5. I think it's 22 and 23 or 23
22.
and
Okay. Yes, Guru.
2 verses in one.
23 to 54. Yes, Guru. I'll just share.
Maharaj explains the 9 processes of devotional service. Yeah. So it's about 9 processes. It's not about Varnashram at all. This is pure bhakti here.
Yes.
But when Prabhupada talks about deity worship as being, he also mentions that, keep going down the page. It's going to take, this is the longest purport in the Bhagavatam. It's about 11 pages. Okay, let's see here.
Okay.
Don't go too fast. Kirtanam. Go to Vandanam.
Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam. Yeah, here is the deity worship.
Here. Grihastha devotees must adapt the deity worship according to suma and directions. Regarding those unable to take the deity worship to the temple, there's a following statement in the Amrit. Any household with a devotee circumstantially unable to worship the deity must at least see the deity worship, and this way he may achieve success also. The special purpose of deity worship is to keep oneself always pure and clean. The grihastas devotees should be actual examples of cleanliness. Let's see where we are. Let's see here. Keep going. Deity worship. Yeah. Deity worship has, okay, wait a minute. Stop. Don't keep.
Guru Maharaj, do you want me to go to Vandanam?
No. Oh. Yeah, you keep going down the page and then I'm looking for that one statement by Prabhupada. Keep going. He mentions the 64 items. Okay, wait a minute. Stop there. Stop. Okay, keep going. So probably goes a lot into the importance of duty worship.
We came to Vandanam, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, Vandana. It's there. I missed it somewhere, but it says that, yeah, Grihastha must take the deity worship. It's positively assured. Can you pinpoint that, Sridevi, in the purport?
It's just about the paragraph that you read out, Guru Maharaj, 4 lines above.
Okay.
Which paragraph, Mataji? Can you please?
Guru Maharaj read the paragraph on the Grihasthas. It's 4 lines above that.
Okay, Mataji, I'm going there.
Yeah, go back up and it's right there. Yeah, 4th line from below. So you see that Grihastha devotees are generally engaged in material activities. Therefore, if they do not, yeah, that one.
Guru Maharaj, is this the one? Yeah, Grihastha devotees, however, are generally engaged in material activities. Everybody, you guys go to work, right? Okay. Therefore, if they do not take the deity worship, their falling down is positively assured. Deity worship means following in him. Okay. Probably makes a very clear statement. Grihasthas have to somehow or other take the deity worship, either at the temple or at home. Okay, and then the rest of the purport just describes the other angas of bhakti. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot here for the Grihastha, especially in that purport.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Yeah, thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. I'll go through the purport again. Yeah, dear devotees, any questions or comments? Hare Krishna. Guru Maharaj,
Devotees are not reading because they don't read, they don't ask questions. If you read, you'll have questions.
Yeah.
Or if you don't have questions, that means everything that has been explained, you fully agree with and understand.
So
means not only agree with, not because it's in the Shastra you agree with it, but you understand it. So if you don't get questions or you don't get realizations, that means you weren't paying attention. You pay attention, you get questions or realizations, either one or both. If you don't pay attention, then somehow or other, you can't get either one. So questions will come up if you're listening very carefully to the text. It will inspire questions when you don't know and realizations when you understand. Oh yes, this is correct. I understand this. There's no doubt in my mind that what is being said is factual. But if we don't come to that stage, then questions should be raised. And this is from the Padma Purana. This is the principle of hearing. The principle of hearing comes, the results come in these two forms. And the third stage of hearing is that when the mind wanders, one should bring the mind back to what is being read or what is being heard, either one. If you're listening carefully and you're also thinking about what you hear, you'll get one of those two questions. If you don't understand, a question will come up in my mind. Well, I don't understand this. And so you'll ask a question. That's the science of hearing. Padma Purana says the science of hearing was, 1, to have faith in the speaker, 2, to hear without challenging, assimilating, 3, when the mind wanders, bring the mind back to what is being heard or spoken, and 4, questions or realizations. This is a scientific system of hearing, and that's how it works. But we let our mind wander, and therefore we don't listen clearly, and then when it comes to the end, we don't have questions or realizations. If you have realizations, you don't have to ask questions, then you're fine. Oh yes, what I'm saying here, it makes sense, I understand it, I have experience based on that. And if that doesn't come up, then the question is, well, how do I understand this in relationship to my present understanding? Question.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Yeah, Sridevi Mataji, please.
Some of us are too shy to ask questions. We think, well, I don't want to ask a question. I don't want to sound stupid, so I won't ask a question. But no one is judging anyone in that way. That's why we have the host there. The host is meant to inspire questions.
I'm trying my best, Guru Maharaj. Devotees are not responding soon. So, but now, because of you, we got 3 raised hands now, and they are eager to ask questions. Sridevi Mataji, please go ahead.
Thank you. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my most humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your divine lotus feet. Thank you, Guru Maharaj, again for this wonderful lecture. Srila Prabhupada said, at present, society is headless. Therefore, I'm creating a class of Brahmins with intelligence to organize society. But when Srila Prabhupada was there, so many intelligent devotees came forward, accepted the program, and became very stalwart devotees. And we still have the organization of society. What about the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, the Shudras? What is the training? Where are they in our society? We have a lot of Brahmins, but what about the other 3 classes?
That's why Prabhupada set up the Varnashram College. The Varnashram College is for the Brahmins as a collective group, not an individual, but a collective group, to know all of the activities of all of the other Varnas and to teach them. The Brahmins are the teachers. They also teach how to fight. They teach how to manage. They teach how to protect cows. They're meant in a collective way. And you can hear it on Prabhupada speaking about it. It's on March 14th, 1974, a morning walk lecture in Vrindavan. Prabhupada outlines the whole system, focusing on the Varnashram College. And Vridananda Maharaj is challenging Prabhupada on a lot of things he says in order to clarify what Prabhupada is saying. And so you can hear that lecture and now everything will be clear. But what Prabhupada did say was Brahmins are the teachers, they teach the other ashrams, the other varnas. But then he wanted a class, he wanted these others, once they're taught and trained, to start working according to their varna. And Shudras don't need training. It's the Vaishyas and the Kshatriyas that require training. Okay, don't worry about it, Scarlett. We understand your situation. If you simply hear, that's good enough. That will be beneficial. So, yeah, but you can see Prabhupada started with the Dominical training, but he wanted that to expand into the other two varnas also. And that's the purpose of Varnashram College. It's an educational institution. So in Mayapur, Bhakti Raghava Swami is, we have a piece of land, and there he's setting up a Varnashram College for training devotees in different varnas like that.
Does that answer your question, Sridevi?
Yes, thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. My humble obeisance.
Thank you, Mataji. Raj Prabhu, please go ahead.
I should add one thing. The Shastras say Kalo Sudra Sambhavam. In this age of Kali Yuga, because of the age, everyone is born Sudra. So that means training is required to bring out their characteristics, their nature. So the training is in three areas: Brahmin, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, based on the activities. And education too. There's a whole system of education that goes with each one of the varnas. There's Brahminical education, there's Kshatriya education, there is also Vaishya education. But you have to remember, we're all engaged in devotional service. So this is spiritual Varnashram. It's not simply material. We're not trying to set up a material Varnashram system in order to create a nice material society. It's all about engaging these propensities, the nature, into devotional service to their Lord.
Raj
Raj.
Prabhu, please go ahead, Raj Prabhu.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you, Maharaj. I actually had two questions, but you just answered one a moment ago. You read my mind. The other question was, in the purport, it talked about civilized human being. I was a little confused. Can you please clarify what Srila Prabhupada means by civilized human beings?
Well, below the Varnashram system, it's considered to be uncivilized.
Is that the same as when you were speaking about rising, following the four regulative principles, raises from animal life to human life?
Yeah. Well, that's Vaishya, that is devotee. That's automatic. But even from the material perspective, if people are engaged in the Varnashram system, they're considered on the human platform. Below the Varnashram system is just animal life. That's it.
Okay.
So the whole society is, as Prabhupada said, it's just animals. That's it. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending, simply following no rules and regulations. And money is the only focus. So everyone's interested in money. That's how much money can I get? How much money can I spend? If you were able to live within this society, you will see people think about economics 24/7. Everything centers around that. Providing enough food, providing clothing, providing shelter, providing the amenities that are in the categories of luxuries. People want money, economics. And as Prabhupada says, Shudras should never be given money because they don't know what to do with money. They should be taken care of by the higher classes and therefore provided whatever they need. But if you give suitors money, they'll spend it on sense gratification. That's usually sinful activity. Nowadays, everybody has money.
Now they're spending it even if they don't have the money in debt.
Yeah. And they don't even pay their debt either. You have to understand, we're living in a very dysfunctional society. Completely dysfunctional.
Okay. Thank you very much, Maharaj.
Varnashram is the beginning of a human society. And when people engage in devotional service, then they become transcendental. Then they actually are entering into the goal of life. So Krishna speaks the Varnashram system as a foundation in order to practice, to make the progress in spiritual life. 4 Varnas, 4 ashrams. But not material Varnashram. Material Varnashram is turned into the caste system, where people were born in a particular family and they were considered to be of that Varna based on their birth. Prabhupada said training is needed. Because everyone doesn't know what is their actual inclination. There may be some expression of that inclination in their activities and in their speech, but that cannot be considered to be the only form of evaluation, which is kind of based on, it's not solid. So training needs to be there. We train people to practice Krishna consciousness according to their material tendencies. In other words, engaging them. But Prabhupada started the movement off without that. And then in 1974, he switched and went towards this whole system of Varna and Ashram. And for the first 7 years, 8 years, he was just spreading the holy name and distributing books, that's all. But then he said, if chanting the holy name is everything, then why are devotees falling down? Why are they falling down? And he said, because we need to establish this varnashram system. People are not engaged properly. The Prabhupada didn't start off with that. He recognized the need And then in the last 3 years, he emphasizes, last 4 years, he emphasized, developed his varnashram. That means you have the tendency to manage. So, all right, so you use that management tendency to manage a yatra, you manage a temple, manage something. And you use the activity to offer to Krishna, and that becomes devotional service. Devotees will engage in any activities when they're asked to, but to stay fixed in that becomes difficult unless people are evaluated and engaged according to their nature. That's why you see a large turnover in our society. People come in, people go out. Because people are not engaged properly. Or not engaged at all. Knowledge is a light in a direction. It's not everything. For the Brahmins, knowledge is the way they serve. They cultivate spiritual knowledge and they teach that knowledge to others. And for them, that's a service. But for people who have other services, knowledge becomes the direction, but at the same time, they have to engage according to their nature. Otherwise, you have an upside down society. Like, for instance, you give deity worship to the Kshatriyas, and they'll just fight, that's all. Why? Because they want to be, a Kshatriya wants to be in control, and he has to be in control. A Brahmin is not in control. He simply supports the control facilities by giving direction and advice. And he doesn't want to take positions of control. The Kshatriyas want that. It's their nature. They want to manage. They want to be in control. So that's okay, but if it has to be done for Krishna. The Vaishyas, instead of just generating income and using it for their own satisfaction, like we have a very Vaishya society, both materially and spiritual, they make a lot of money. And, they use some of their money in charity, but most of it they use to live nicely. So everything's upside down until you establish the Daivi Varnashram, spiritual Varnashram.
Hello, one sec, yeah.
You'll have this material Varnashram doesn't work. Devananda Pandit, you have a question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I think you raised previously. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, please accept Mahabal blessings, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you, Srila Gurudeva, all glories to the assembled devotees. When I read these verses, I noticed that these verses are talking only in general terms about what Bhishmadeva said about certain things, about the duties of various varnas and ashrams. Then I had a suspicion, which no one has refuted, that Bhishmadeva's direct speech was specifically excluded from this edition of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Perhaps somewhere it is written in detail what he said.
What was excluded?
Explanation. We can read only general things.
Yeah, and Bhishmadev gave that explanation when he instructed Yudhisthira Maharaj. Bhakti Tirtha Swami, when he did his leadership books 1 and 2, the second one, he centered it around Bhishmadev's instructions to Yudhisthira. So So as far as I know, that's the only book that has been done in our society. That he took Bhismadev's instructions and expanded on them and gave principles of leadership. Leadership number 2. I haven't read the book myself, so I don't know exactly what's in it, but it centers around that discussion between Yudhishthira and Bhishmadev. So obviously there's more detail there. You may look there and see what you can understand. But yeah, you're right. There is just a general statement here because Bhagavatam gives the PowerPoint and the general statement. Prabhupada expands on these statements to a certain degree, but each one of them you can go much further and understand things in relationship to all situations and not in a general way. So that's there. Bhagavatam can't do that because it's just focusing on the essence. Therefore, that's why people can't understand Bhagavatam. It's just direct, pure statements. But then you need the purports of the acharyas. So you may also go to the commentaries on the acharyas, like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has written commentaries on every verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. You can go to the 9th chapter, 1st canto, and see what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has said in relationship to these statements also. So there's other sources that you can find.
I'm sorry, can you repeat what is the name of the book of Bhakti Tirtha Swami?
It's just called Leadership 2.
Leadership 2.
Yeah, he did 2, Leadership 1, Leadership 2. It's also done in Russian too.
Hare Krishna.
Guru Maharaj, we have a question on chat by Aarti Mataji. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. I'm not inclined to deity worship in all. Honestly, I find it a chore. As per the purport, it says a Gruhastha must have deities in the home. Is that correct?
Well, are you married?
Aarti Mataji.
No.
So you're not a Grihastha yet. When you get a husband, then get some deities. Well, I know you're going to get married soon, right?
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay. Well, I hope so. Well, I don't know what to say. If you're not inclined to deity worship, then do Sankirtan. Or go to the temple and do some sevas there. It's not like you have to stay home and do nothing if you don't do deity worship. You can find different ways to serve different, so many different ways. Find out what type of service is needed and see if you can fill in there. You can do book distribution if you want. You can also do various temple services. What do you like to do? You're Brahminical. You're very Brahminical.
I like distributing books.
You like what?
I like doing book distribution.
Book distribution, yeah. Yeah, well, how did I meet you? I met you because you were interested in the philosophy. You came by philosophical attraction to Krishna consciousness. Yeah. And you also came to, you came to me also because of that. So yeah, cultivate that. Read and study Srila Prabhupada's books. If you can, distribute books and create some preaching based on your own, knowledge of the Shastra.
Okay, thank you, Guru Maharaj.
You don't have to do beauty worship. If you do this, it's wonderful.
Okay.
Okay.
Sridevi Mataji, you want to go ahead?
Dear Guru Maharaj, on this question again of Daivi Varnashram and understanding our propensities and getting the required training and everything, other than the pure devotee of the Lord who knows through and through about the disciple, the spiritual master, how is it possible for anyone else to trust? Say I'm a Bhakta leader, I myself am saying Krishna consciousness 10 years, 15 years, what do I know? And how anybody will trust me if I say, I think you should try to develop your Brahmanical qualities or Vaishya, whatever it may be, how our bhaktas and bhaktins can be guided unless they have a spiritual master?
Well, we engage people. That's also part of people who are in the position to engage others. They should engage a person according to how best they can serve. So that means also the temple president. But then again, if there's an occasional service on any level, anyone can do that. But if you want to do a steady service where you get fixed in one particular service, some training is needed. And some practical guidance is also needed. Teach and show. Speak and perform. It may not be perfect, but it's the best system. So if you're a yatra leader and you have three people working under you and there's services to do, then you have to see, well, this person has that inclination for that particular service. And, you know, like that. But that's a specific thing. In general, on a day-to-day basis, sometimes we just give people services so they can do something. And that's fine, that's devotional service. The Prabhupada's point was no one will stay steady in devotional service unless they can actually work according to their nature. That steadiness is what he was talking about. That steadiness that allows one to develop their sadhana in relationship to their service. Okay, I have another program coming up quite soon.
It's
So I
good.
had to push this program back in order to be here today. So we'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much. Thanks for asking questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Let's see all the devotees again. Everybody looks happy.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Seeing you, we are very, very happy. Thank you.
Here now. I'm in the
Thank you,
home.
Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj.
Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj
Jai.
ki jai. Yeah.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Jai.
Thank you very much, Gurudev. Hare Krishna.